Welcome to Learn and Discern YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about these crazy Russian hackers and how they're affecting this year's election. So last time we kind of went over this Never Hillary, Never Trump movement and how the election in America is really representative of the global struggle between the globalists and anti-globalists, the New World Order and the rest of society. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And why Russian President Vladimir Putin is being called the, quote, godfather of this global brand of extreme nationalism, end quote, by presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton. And I'm also going to talk about what these Russian hackers have to do with all of that. So remember the globalists here saying that the anti-globalists are holding back progress and, they're the problem with society. And now these same people are threatening the very integrity of our elections here. So the story is these hackers hacked into Arizona and Illinois voter databases. So it's important to know the voter registration databases are separate from the counting system, so they don't impact each other. However, there's still a big potential to disrupt our elections because a hacker could potentially change like voting addresses, delete addresses, so it could really confuse voter registration and throw our election for a loop there. But we do have the Arizona Secretary of State Communications Director, Matt Roberts, explaining that this hack was actually only successful in capturing one user's login credentials. But the FBI did rate it as an 8 out of 10 in severity. Nevertheless, the media is saying these hacks were done by a sophisticated Russian hacker. This article alone points to the Russians 3 different times and also explains the Russians as the perpetrators behind the DNC hack. So again, here we've got the media saying these hackers are sophisticated and they're going to tip the American election. This fear is definitely concerning, especially after the DNC scandal. Because if we remember back in 2000 with George W. Bush, we had a bunch of chaos because of these like hanging chads and butterfly ballots. It literally destroyed the American faith in the paper ballot system. Stuart Baker, a former top official at the Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Agency, explained that this new threat is, quote, hanging chads weaponized, end quote. So if we look back and remember that kind of point in history, we remember that the public's response in all of this caused Congress to actually outlaw punch ballots, and they even allocated over $3 billion to switch states to computers. And here we are 16 years later having the computer system threatened here. So what do you guys think the response will be? Well, the Department of Homeland Security does have a solution, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But for right now, I'm going to focus on how the mass media is desperately trying to connect these hacks to Russia, Trump, and the entire anti-New World Order groups. Brian Kemp, Georgia's Secretary of State, explains, quote, it seems like now it's just the DC media and the bureaucrats. Because of the DNC getting hacked, they now think our whole system is on the verge of disaster because some Russian's going to tap into the voting system. But what's really going on? Is the media pushing the facts here? Well, the DNC did hire a private cybersecurity company called CrowdStrike to investigate. And so far, obviously the FBI is investigating too, but the FBI hasn't come out with any information yet. However, this private company has said that not only were these hackers monitoring all email and chat traffic from the DNC, they were actually in the system for an entire year. They did say that there's at least 2 different hacking groups working separately. One identified as Fancy Bear and the other as Cozy Bear. One of the groups is believed to work for Russian military intelligence. The other, they aren't so sure. But honestly, again, there's no hard proof that not only are these hackers Russian, but there's definitely no proof that they are linked with the Russian government. Um, so the media and Hillary are really convinced based on very inconclusive evidence. I want to make a side note. Even if the hackers are actually living in Russia, should that entire government and country be responsible for these activist hackers? I mean, anonymous. There are plenty of anonymous hackers that live in America, and these people back in 2008 hacked Sarah Palin's email. They took down Australia's Prime Minister's website in 2009. They hacked into the Egyptian government websites in 2011. They took down Gaddafi's website in 2011. They took down 91 websites belonging to the Malaysian government, and they reside in America. But that's not our government, right? That's just individual hackers that happen to be in America. Of course, Anonymous is an international organization, but you get my point here. Even if they're residing in Russia, that doesn't mean that it's the Russian government. So, anyway, the media and Hillary are really the ones pushing this. The Obama administration has never publicly blamed Russia. The FBI has not attributed any of the attacks to the Russian government. At the State Department Monday, John Kirby, a spokesman, refused to say Russia was responsible. But it is Democrats trying to pressure the White House to publicly name Russia. Okay, the only people who are saying it is this private cybersecurity investigators, and even that connection was pretty weak in my opinion. Putin, of course, is completely denying the attack, saying, quote, on a state level, Russia has never done this, end quote. He did, however, say that the act was actually a public service, and he was shocked that Americans, the public in America here isn't so concerned with the actual bias in the party at that level. We've also got the Russian Foreign Prime Minister Lavrov. Sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly. Anyway, he says, quote, Putin has repeatedly articulated our position and stated publicly that we never interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, told Reuters, an independent news source, quote, I completely rule out a possibility that the Russian government or government bodies have been involved in this. Dmitry Trenin, director of the Carnegie Moscow Center, quote, I would be suspicious that, referring to the DNC, would be a target of importance to foreign intelligence. They would likely spend their resources elsewhere. And I have to agree with them there because, again, the DNC says that these hackers came in and stole literally 2 documents about information about Donald Trump, which probably would have been public anyway, so I really don't know why, if it was the Russian government, why they would waste their resources. But anyway, that's the story. So we've got literally the people who are pushing this perspective that Russia wants to alter our election in Trump's favor is being pushed by Hillary Clinton, the mass media, and that one private cybersecurity company, whereas the people who are saying, or at least not making the connection to the Russian government, saying that they didn't do it, is the Russian government, the Obama administration, and the FBI. Honestly, in the same speech where she's condemning these, dark internet conspiracy theorists, she definitely appears to be weaving a very dark conspiracy of her own. But regardless of what the actual truth is, the idea that the legitimacy of our elections are at risk will result in action by our federal government, in my opinion. And this is where the New World Order globalists are going to assume more power. They're describing the main issue and threat as coming from the elections being held on a state-by-state basis. The issue, in their opinion, is not enough federal oversight. So in response, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Johnson, has come out stating that, they are investigating and determining whether or not the electoral system should be considered critical infrastructure. which is defined as sectors which provide essential services that underpin American society and serve as the backbone of our nation's economy, security, and health. Any breakdown in any of these sectors would cause a debilitating, effect on American society, which is why they're national security interests. The elections really do fit well with this description, so I think it'd be pretty easy to absorb them under, DHS oversight, especially, when there's all this talk of Russian spies infiltrating our system. It's my opinion that the DHS actually will assume oversight over our elections, regardless if Trump wins or if Clinton wins. I think this election is going to be pretty intense. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think the hackers have ties to the Russian government, or do you think Putin is attempting to sway our elections in Trump's favor? Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Um, hope to make some more videos soon, and thank you guys so much for listening.